Just Baseball's awards show. We're going to go through the MLB Awards finalists. We're going to pick one. Unfortunately, a lot of them feel chalky, so that's only going to take a little bit. We've got some headlines off the top, and then Peter brought a whole bunch of niche awards. First three-man pod of the offseason. Jack, Peter, Aram, Just Baseball show on Friday, November 10th. Peter, come on, man. Do the thing you always do.
We are brought to you by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Use promo code JustBaseball when you sign up and deposit into your newly created account. Download the BetMGM Sports app on iOS or Android, or visit BetMGM.com. Place your first bet offer and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if it loses. If the bet does lose, your bonus bets will be available once the wager is settled. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older, and terms and conditions apply. I'm very excited to discuss the headlines off the top because there's a couple of general managers operating in completely different directions, but both things that they said were incredibly hilarious. One pissed me the fuck off, though.
Interesting.
I wonder which one.
Yeah, I wonder which one. I'm wearing my Murderer's Row hat the last time the Yankees were good back in 1927.
Before we get into that, quick thought, Aram. I don't know if you've seen it, but all the free agent power rankings that outlets are putting out right now, you notice who keeps on climbing to the 2 spot or the 3 spot? Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He is shooting up these like power rankings of free agents. And we've gone from $110 million contract predictions to, I saw one that was north of $200 million across 7 years. I mean, were you the first mover on him? Were you the second mover? It's crazy. Like, this is the darling of MLB free agency, it seems.
Well, it was amazing. I think, the aspect of the piece that we put out on Just Baseball, which was pretty cool, was that I don't think anybody had the information that we had on him. So, I don't know if that changed certain things, but I did have people reach out and say like, oh, is it okay if I like cite this for our free agent piece or like this or that? So I think when we were able to explain why he has 5 pitches and I can compare like the splitter to Alex Cobb and the sweeper to Dre Jameson and Tanner Bybee and the fastball release height to Luis Castillo, like you can understand how people would start to get excited about that, because it's really hard to get information from the NPB. It's really hard to get any data whatsoever unless you're a front office member. So yeah, it's been cool to see just the hype continue to build and build and build and build. Ironically, right before we hopped on here, I just did my whole voiceover for a video that we're going to be putting out on our YouTube, breaking down Yoshinobu Yamamoto's entire arsenal, but be about like 8-10 minutes. It's going to kind of be our foray into this short form YouTube content. So look out for that. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube, please do, because I'm excited to start to build that. I know you guys are excited about it too. But yeah, he should be, because ultimately, who else are you that excited about in terms of the stuff that isn't 25 years old? Most of them are 30. Most of them are 28, 29. You can give this guy 7, 8 years, 9 years, and feel pretty decent about it.
Yeah. I got an issue. He's short, 5'10". How's he going to make it?
I saw that. I saw them talking about that. What the fuck?
Who's them? Who was talking about it?
He just got Boris. But Ken Rosenthal had a nice little jab in The Athletic. I think it was yesterday.
Person myself.
he said something along the lines that he specified who Yamamoto was rep by, which I think was like WME or something like that.
Yeah.
And he said, if Yamamoto was repped by Boris, we'd be hearing a lot of things about why short pitchers are better and any of those. He just said it was funny how like all of a sudden that's a concern to him. And then he pointed out several pitchers that were his client that are either shorter or around the same age who are very good. And it was just like, it shows you, like, and I get it's an agent's job, but I love Ken Rosenthal. Like, it wasn't personal. It wasn't rude. It was just like, hey, if you're going to play this game, like, here's the receipts. And, yeah, that's why we love Ken. He's always doing a great job.
Yeah. So Boris, did you see the other quote that he came out with, that he wants to move the World Series to a neutral site? I mean, what a dumbass idea. What are we talking about?
That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Dumbest shit I've ever heard. You want home field advantage. That's like the point. Game 7 at home for playing better. It should not be at a neutral site.
It's also 7 games.
This
7
isn't
games
the
at a
Super
neutral
Bowl.
site is nuts.
This isn't the Super Bowl where it's one game and you can understand if both teams go 13-4 or whatever, and then you move them for one game at a neutral site where a bunch of different fans can come in. Not for the Major League Baseball World Series. Scott, you're not God. He's acting like he's in control of everything.
So here's what he does at the GM meetings annually. There were some photos of his Boris Corp backdrop tweeted out at the GM meetings. It was like, hey, he's arrived for the state of the Scott Boras Union. He always has 10 to 15 of the highest ticket free agents every single year. But if you don't know, if you aren't familiar with Scott Boras's game, his MO is dad jokes. He figures out puns when it comes to every single free agent.
That's underselling it too, man.
Yeah, underselling
it. So
He's
these
crazy.
are the two that have really made the rounds as we record right now. On Jung-Hoo Lee, the really talented Korean outfielder that's coming over, Boris said, quote, he is going to bring K-pop to MLB. Oh. And then about Cody Bellinger, Boris said, quote,
this one hurt me.
You ready?
Yeah.
Chicago got the comfort of a full belly. They're going to have to loosen their belts to keep him. Oh, come on, man. Like this is
that second one. That second one wasn't bad. The first one was terrible.
Aram, I know you're big into like rhyme schemes and UK drill. Is this UK drill?
UK drill.
You love the UK drill.
I'm not even a big UK drill guy. I'm into rhyme schemes. I do like old school hip hop, but yeah, I don't know if Boris is an MC. I don't know if he's got that in his future, but I will say I admire his attempt to like be human, I guess.
I don't admire
but like
it
this is
he's
not
trying to be
concentrated effort at being human.
Yeah, I was just saying it's almost like if you like put like programming into like a robot and said like make jokes and then like robot make jokes and then that's like the jokes that he makes like plays on words. But I will say I think that this is going to be one of those free agencies that, and it's always every single one, but this one, I think he's going to really dominate because it's so top heavy with just a few guys. And I think that's why he was disparaging, and not really disparaging, I shouldn't say that, but that's why he wasn't hyping up. And anyone who's not hyping up Yamamoto to me is on the other side. Because that's arguably the best free agent that he doesn't have, right? And also like one of the better that he hasn't had in a while. Like how often does Boris not have the number 2 guy or number 1 guy in a class? Like it'll happen from time to time, but in this class, like he's going to be the most expensive pitcher and Boris doesn't have him.
He doesn't have Ohtani either. I think Ohtani is CAA if I'm not mistaken.
True.
So he doesn't have Ohtani.
Yeah. But what are you going to say about that guy?
Pun wise,
too jacked, big, sick, and fast.
Don't forget fast.
I was trying to think of a weird pun, but like I just can't do it.
Yeah, no, just don't even try.
So how about the sellers? Aram, you ID'd with 2 of the GMs that have kind of made their case to be open for, maybe selling off their marquee pieces.
Yeah. And I'll leave the floor for Peter on Ryan Cashman's. I think his worst PR situation, like the worst address he's had, I think, as the Yankees GM, as far as I can remember
in the history of baseball.
Yeah. I'll tee you up for that. But first, I actually thought Chris Getz was great because so Chris Getz, new White Sox GM, comes in and says, I don't like our team and we have to make some adjustments to improve in 2024. That was the direct quote. And that's via Dan Hayes of The Athletic. And you know what? I think in some contexts that's harsh and you're like, whoa, like if Peter Bendix came and said that with the Marlins, you're like, whoa. This team's like doing all right. It needs some changes, but like, whoa. With the White Sox, I think that's exactly what fans want to hear at this point, right? You've been in the purgatory of frustration and just ineptitude and not a lot of accountability and all of these things. And now you have a general manager who was an internal hire, but he comes in and says, nah, this shit isn't going to fly. And this team kind of sucks. Like there's talent, but this team doesn't win. And we got to shake this thing up. And he says they're open for business, according to Ken Rosenthal. So to me, that's everybody but Luis Robert. And I think that's great. That's what we've been asking for. So who's getting Dylan Cease finally? I think that's the big question.
I wouldn't count out them selling Luis Robert either. He might just want a clean house if he can get an enormous package.
I mean, if you can get a Soto package for him, like, yeah, why not?
Second team all just baseball, right? Yeah. Which is big for front offices.
Yeah.
Huge for front offices. But that probably means I'm not sure where Moncada's value lies, but that probably
None.
means that Benintendi can get something. It's a
Armin, I
weird
made the
contract to
same
move,
face.
I know, but Benintendi is probably floated after year one of a
Yeah,
contract.
Yankees are looking for a left-handed bat, I heard.
There we go.
Yeah.
Eloy Jimenez could be on the move. How
He'll
about
get
Andrew?
he'll still get a nice little return, especially with a better year this year.
You think Vaughn could get a return?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just another guy, good player, just doesn't, he's kind of part of their problem, right? Doesn't have a specific position, doesn't really, I think, fill the voids that they have. Like they have a lot, like Eloy is kind of redundant to Vaughn, who's kind of redundant to, I think their situation's just kind of bizarre. So that was an interesting one. And then the Brewers, that one was a little bit more unique because the Brewers were a good team all year. But if you look at the state of the franchise, can understand why they might be ready to sell here. And that seems to be the rumblings, is that that was another Ken Rosenthal thing. Everybody is available. Think about it from this lens. You have Corbin Burns for one more year. Brandon Woodruff is under control for one more year, but won't pitch. He's hurt. So that's two guys that you're going to lose to free agency after this season. Willie Adames, about to be a free agent. Yelich, yes, he bounced back, but he's getting older.
No, he's awesome.
You go get the rest of the team. It's young. So it's a really interesting spot for them to be in. And the reality is when they lose a couple of those core guys, they're not going to be able to pay them all.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to compete with the Cubs that are going to leapfrog them. I think that's why the Cubs are about to be aggressive. They smell the blood in the water. The rest of the divisions, man, we'll see how the Reds continue. But I think it actually does make sense for the Brewers to sell. It's just Adames, Burns. Nobody's going to take Woodruff right now.
No.
So who else do you have to sell? You're not trading Contreras. And the rest of the guys are really young. So are they trading young guys for younger? Like that's the one thing I don't get. I get Burns and Adames. Who else is available?
I think Burns is probably the big one because he becomes the best, pitcher available via trade. Like those teams that are trying to work between the margins and don't have money for a 7-year extension, but want a top flight starting pitcher, they'll go get Corbin Burns for a year. So I think I really don't believe we're going to see a deal for Corbin Burns until we see Snell off the board, Nola off the board, Yamamoto off the board, because then these teams that operate more between the margins than some of the big ticket ones that we think are going to land the marquee free agent starting pitchers, I think that's when they start to throw some prospects at Milwaukee and say, hey, we'd love to take Burns off your hand for the final year. I think that's probably the guy. When Matt Arnold says what he says, it's, hey, we're talking about Corbin Burns, maybe Adames, but like Tyrone Taylor, what's he going to get him? A AA guy? That's the thing. They're all kind of different iterations of Tyrone Taylor, to be totally honest.
I think you guys are forgetting a big name that could potentially be on the market, Devin Williams, right? They already traded Josh Hader. He signed a 1-year, $3.35 million deal in arbitration in 2023, right? If they have a history of moving these really good closers because they seem to just spawn guys, right? Abner Uribe just came out of nowhere. Joel Piamps, right? They got Mazeroski. I don't even know if I said his name right, but I remember
Bill Mazeroski.
Yeah,
Bill
probably.
Mazeroski.
You guys know what Peter Mazeroski.
Yeah, Jacob Mazeroski. Yeah,
Jacob Mazeroski.
Jacob Mazeroski. I don't know his name, but I know his arm because I saw him in the Futures game pumping 102. I look over at Jack and Arm. I'm like, who is this demon on the mound right now?
He's
and
a
like,
JUCO bandit.
He's just another Brewer that they have just creating in their system. So I would not be surprised. You could get a big ass package. Again, another first team all just baseball guy.
And another guy who's a free agent after one more year. So he's same timeline as a lot of those guys. I think one more year after that, but still.
I love that ad. The other thing that we had constant conversations about during the season is the traffic among young outfielders. Yelich is immovable because he's got that escalating contract.
And he's awesome.
But how do they juggle Frelick, Weimer, Mitchell? You can move one of those guys.
Here's my question. Is Yelich immovable at this point now? 4-win season, looked a lot better. You have now remaining on the contract. He's set to make $26 million in 2024, $26 million in 2025, $26 million in 2026, $26 million in 2027, and $28 million in 2028 with a mutual option in 2029.
That's a lot of millions.
That is a lot of millions. But what, Jack, quick maths, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years at an average of 26 million. So that's 100 and
50.
104 plus 26 is 130.
5 years, 130 in the open market for Yelly right
I
now.
think that's high.
You trading for that?
Can I maybe you can offset it a little bit? Like,
Yeah.
you can send a contract the other way. I wouldn't rule it out.
See,
How about before we get to the Yankees being pieces of shits, Bryce Harper only going to play first base for now on. It's not a huge headline, right? I'm more interested to see what happens with Rhys Hoskins, who's of course the guy with the big home run off Spencer Strider, has been a great first baseman for them. I know he's probably gone now, right?
Yeah, he's gone. It sounds like
he's a free agent. Yeah.
So
that
phased
out entirely.
I thought he was going to be a Philly for life. He just seems so Philly, and I know
he
Philly
did seem like
love him.
He did seem like a long-term Philly, but
yeah.
Then you get Schwarber. Then you get. I mean, apparently they're trying to move Castellanos to another guy though. Who's going to pay him $20 million a year for 3 years?
The Reds. He'd be great on the Reds.
Yeah, he was good there in the past.
The Reds. Yeah, it's all going to be fascinating. Also, one more. We never really talked about the Padres wanting to trim payroll, and I wonder how they do that.
But then I feel like
did you not make some? I thought you made some broke boy jokes about them.
We did, but like we never tangibly talked about how they can do it. We just made jokes.
I do feel like it's not going to happen. AJ Preller's just going to have a couple of whiskeys at the GM meetings and be like, fuck it. Let's give Blake Snell like $300 million.
So I think the way you can cut some of it would be somehow unloading Jake Cronenworth. Good luck.
How?
Good luck.
Frank Grisham you could dump for nothing. But someone would take his money on, I think. And then how much did they pay Robert Suarez?
He makes 10 this year, 10 and 25, a player option at 8 and 26, and 8 and 27.
Oh.
See, why are you giving a reliever 5 years, 46 M's, literally a year ago? And how do you not have the foresight to say, hey, we're going to need a bridge loan and like all this shit and still be giving relievers that kind of money? I understand like getting in the moment and paying a Machado or paying a Xander Bogart. Like I get that. But if you know money could be tight down the line, how are you giving $50 million to a reliever?
That's another reason why when I see the Craig Counsell contract, like I know it's an enormous bag for a manager and it blows every other one out of the water. But then you look at contracts like Robert Suarez making more. Who would you rather have, Craig Counsell or Robert Suarez?
Give me Craig Counsell.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Which is absolutely crazy. I'm trying to look at who else is like. So you have Cronenworth for $7 million. You'd have no shortage of suitors for Ha-Seong Kim at $7 million, but you got to keep
him away. Guy. That's like the only guy you have to keep.
Matt Carpenter's at 5.5.
The fact that they gave that dude a player option is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Man. So yeah, I think trying to figure out how to unload Suarez. Maybe they attach him to another player, and yeah. But to your point, Jack, real hard to get this money wiped off the books. They're also still paying Hosmer $12 million in retained salary this year.
Maybe trade Bogarts to the Nationals. We'll swap, get some of the guys back.
Is anyone going to take that contract on now?
Oh.
Like Musgrove, maybe, but now who pitches for you?
Like, you got a 37-year-old Yu Darvish that just signed another 5-year deal, 6-year deal.
I think Michael Wacha could go for 300 innings. You just got to say, hey, you're throwing 86.
He's a free agent now.
Yeah,
bro.
You just hit the open market again.
Yeah, he's gone. Never mind.
So we'll see. All right, Peter, floor is yours on the Yankee front, man.
So let me set the scene. Brian Cashman came out and talked to reporters, right? The classic crew was there. Joel Sherman, John Heyman, a lot of New York media guys. And I love when they're there because they're the only people with the stones to fight back against a guy like Brian Cashman. But Brian Cashman hawked a big green loogie and spit it in the face of Yankee fans. I thought it was one of the most disrespectful press conferences I have ever seen from a general manager. We'll go through a couple of the points. So the first big one that got a lot of the news was Brian Cashman came out and said, we have the biggest pro scouting department and the smallest analytical department in the American League East.
Weird flex.
weird flex, accusing people who say that they only follow analytics are bullshit. And he kept saying, has anyone looked into that? Has anyone looked into that? The classic Yankee game these days is their pitchers go 4 innings and then they immediately go to the bullpen. So, first of all, even if you have one guy working in your analytics department, you're obviously still very bought into the numbers. They don't bunt. They don't play old school baseball. They are almost at least one of the poster boys for the team that only uses analytics. That's what Yankee fans have been so upset for the past decade. So to say that you have this big pro scouting department and no analytical department, first of all, I think is bullshit. Second of all, it ain't working. Let's look at some of the players that you have brought in using all of your great scouts and no analytics. How about one of the worst trades in the past decade? The Josh Donaldson trade, where you basically just lit $50 million on fire. How about bringing in IKF to be your shortstop? Then bench him in the playoffs because it didn't work. How about holding on to Miguel Andujar and never trading him, even when he had this great rookie year? You could have cashed in, but you decided, no, Andujar is our guy. How did that work out? How about holding on to Gary Sanchez for years and years to just have him be horrible defensively
Now he's
and
kind of
never
good again.
hit? Say it again.
Now he's kind of good again.
Yeah, of course now he's good again. How about the Harrison Bader deal? You traded away Jordan Montgomery because your scouting department, right? You're not using analytics, so your scouting department thought he wouldn't fit in the playoff rotation. So you trade him for Harrison Bader. I didn't mind the deal at the time, but obviously that backfired, right? We can have takes on whether we like the deal at the time. It is your job to get the deal right. There have been so many more moves that you have gotten wrong than you have gotten right. And a lot of people say, well, look at the Clay Holmes deal, right? He wasn't that good in Pittsburgh, and then he comes over. Congratulations for winning a couple of moves. Like the barometer for being good shouldn't be that you succeeded with a couple of relievers. Go ahead, Arm.
That's generally where the analytics shine through too, is where you can find outlier pitches and outlier release points and things like that in relievers. Like that's why the Rays and the Brewers and a lot of these other teams, the Orioles, are really good at that. What's interesting to me is like I understand wanting to push back on saying all of our decisions are based on analytics. Everything that we do is the ship is steered by analytics. I can understand wanting to push back on that. But the way in which Cashman pushes back is bizarre to me, because it's every team should be using their scouting department and investing in that, because there's still so much value in being able to get out there. I just did in Arizona, and the things that I was able to see in person versus what I see in the back end data. The data is kind of the result. You got to see what precedes that. But that said, the data is basically compensating for what you can't do, which is have a human everywhere at all times, seeing every pitch in intricate detail. So like to say, no, we aren't steered by analytics. We actually don't use them at all, basically, is what he said. Like, that's the weirdest part to me, is like, that's not the issue. Nobody's saying that you shouldn't use analytics. Everyone's just saying that you shouldn't be totally led by that and base every single decision on those numbers. So I just thought the Cashman response was even more of a lack of feel, because it's like, nobody wants you to not use analytics or have the smallest analytics department. That's embarrassing. That's not something you want to brag about. That's not good. It's good to use all of the information you have and then make a decision. If you want to base that decision more on the word of scouts, that's fine. But you still should be consulting a normal sized analytics department and then combining those things to have very good prospects. That's what a lot of the best teams do. It's not like the analytically driven teams just don't have any scouts. They're not like, we have no scouts. We don't even use our scouting department. Like, imagine that the other way. It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So I thought that was weird. And then one other little own by the Athletic again. Cashman claimed the Yankees have the smallest analytics department in the American League East. Reporting from the Athletic in 2018 showed that the Yankees and the Dodgers had the biggest analytic departments in the sport at the time. So unless Cashman cut them down over the last 5 years, I don't even know what he's talking about.
So it's also still not true. Eric Boland, who is the Yankees beat writer at Newsday, saw a study done by Four Ring Sports Solutions on August 27th of this year, and it was the number of R&D staffers that each front office has, which is full-time analysts and engineers. As of August 27th, 2023, Four Ring Sports Solutions. Tampa has 44 full-time R&D staffers. The Yankees have 43. They have the second biggest R&D department in Major League Baseball. By the way, three smallest, actually. Miami, Colorado, Oakland. Are you shocked?
What do they have in common?
I want to punch a hole in my computer right now.
So what he's saying basically is we're more like Miami, Oakland, and
but it's also like not true. He's trying to look like them, but it's not factually correct.
We're not like that. We're more like Colorado. We're more like Colorado and Miami. Like, which by the way, Peter Bendix changing that shit. Watch out,
dude.
Yeah, shout out.
So, did you see the video of him getting poured with beer after they clinched a postseason spot, and he was kind of doing the like it's cold thing? That's how I know that guy's going to be a good GM.
Tufts University, baby. I don't know.
The
I don't know
Jumbos.
what
He was a jumbo.
experience. Don't know what playing experience is. Don't care. I'm all in. I haven't commented on Bendix on the show yet. All the way in. Just wanted to put that out there. All the way in.
Cool. I have more points. He said coaches being poached off the Yankees is evidence that their process is really good. What a dumbass statement. There are so many coaches that do the ring around throughout Major League Baseball. I think Buck Showalter has managed half the teams in Major League Baseball. And then to continue that point, when he started talking about Sonny Gray and Joey Gallo, that other contenders wanted them. He mentioned Joey Gallo, and he thinks it's so funny that, well, the Dodgers picked him up, and then the Twins picked him up, so other teams thought he was good. That the Dodgers wanted Joey Gallo because all they had to trade you was a flyer reliever in Clayton Beeter. That was the only reason. And then what'd they use him as? A bench bat. They thought, oh, we'll take a flyer on him. You did not take a flyer on him when you traded for him. You played him in left field for a full season where he struck out 200 times, hit 190, and was just obviously not a good fit. And then he mentioned that he spoke with Rougned Odor, who was his teammate. And then he said, this is from Michael Kay. Rougned Odor was his teammate. So, and he said that he would be able to play in New York. Michael Kay said he then spoke to 10 other people when the trade happened, that it was going to be a disaster. So your scouting department, your analytics department, whoever the fuck that you have that manages these type of deals obviously was completely wrong. And then Sonny Gray. Go ahead, Jack, before I continue on Gray.
Yeah, I got to push back on the Beeter thing. He's not a flyer reliever anymore. He was one of statistically the better pitchers in the upper minors this year and will be a starting pitcher for the Yankees in 2024. Beeter has kind of regained that starting pitching prowess and that prospect prowess. So I did need to push back there. I get that there were flaws when they traded Gallo for Beeter.
At the time. No, it was a good trade for the Yankees. At the time, he was more of a closer type prospect.
No, he was a starter that they were going to see what they had. He had reliever risk, but by no means was he in a bullpen yet. He was, a guy that could be seen as a tweener down the road, but he hasn't turned into that. He's a legit starting pitching prospect.
We'll see. We'll see if he becomes a legit starting pitching prospect. We'll see. I'm hoping.
And then the weird thing about it, too, is like if a guy succeeds elsewhere, it doesn't make the move good for you. That's like the Cubs saying, or the Cardinals saying, look at Jason Hayward. Look at what we did. But he played well with the Dodgers, so the money that we gave him was good. Like the Cubs saying that would not make any sense, right? Like, oh, we told you that the Hayward contract was good because he played well with the Dodgers way after it. Like that's not how that works. So, yeah, I mean, that's another side of it, too, which is like, if you are scout driven as well and human driven, you should have a better feel for who is able to play in New York and who isn't. And to Peter's point, he has not really had a good feel for that thus far with Sonny Gray. And it's funny that he actually specifically referenced those guys who then succeeded elsewhere. Yeah. Like it doesn't make it better. It doesn't vindicate you if they succeeded elsewhere. You're supposed to identify players who can succeed for you.
And otherwise, not let them leave.
Yeah.
And shouldn't you have a feel, since you have been the general manager since before I was born, Shouldn't that be a part of like why Brian Cashman is a good general manager? Because you can go out and say, yeah, I've been the general manager for the New York Yankees since 1995 or 94. I grew up with this organization. I know who can play in New York. And he hasn't had that. And then that just moves on to the Sonny Gray point, where he said, well, the Twins picked him up, right? A bunch of other teams were into him. You're not special for being able to identify that Sonny Gray is good, right? Anybody with eyes, he was good before. Anybody with eyes could have said, Sonny Gray is a good pitcher. So for you to say that, oh, we just couldn't play in New York, other teams wanted him. Of course they did. Of course they did. You know, we were talking, they changed Sonny Gray's pitch mix when he came over to New York. And then he moves on to another team. His sweeper, Jack, we talked about it on the last show. Opponents hit 0.97 against it. Did he throw it with the Yankees? Of course he didn't. And then the Frankie Montas deal. You traded for a guy who was injured.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of going through every bad thing of the Brian Cashman tenure, which like.
But the thing is, the reason why we're doing it is because he went on, he was so defensive about it. And he was trying to prove to us that they were good deals when then they were objectively not. Like, and then the cherry on top of the shit Sunday, when he said, when they're talking about the development that Joel Sherman is combating with him, that the Yankees really haven't had that great of a development system, right? They haven't pulled up a lot of big time prospects. They haven't had a core four since a long time ago. And then he mentioned Judge and he mentioned Volpe, and like Judge had to get outside help to get his swing better. And yes, Volpe probably will be a great player, right? Probably will be.
He was a 2020 player with a Gold Glove.
Yeah, I don't know how he won the Gold Glove. Like, we didn't even really talk about that. I don't know how he won it, but hey, he won it. But then he's talking about Oswald Peraza. How would Oswald Peraza play? Right? There's DJ LeMahieu at third. There's Josh Donaldson there. Gleyber Torres.
The whole roster.
What are we?
We're doing the whole. So we're doing the whole roster thing, but we did this at the end of the regular season too. We had this conversation. Hey, like, why do the Yankees not develop the talent the way other top flight organizations do? They might. They just never give those guys shots. And we had this conversation in September when Dominguez and Pereira got up and Austin Wells. That's like that's a very rare opportunity in recent Yankee history where a guy gets the opportunity to play every day from the jump. And Volpe got that opportunity. Oswald Peraza has been a consensus top 100 prospect for the last 2 years, maybe consensus top 50 for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
He just graduated, but give me a month where this guy was an everyday player.
No, but that's the point I'm making, that he was saying that we believe in Oswald Peraza. There just wasn't a lane for him. And I'm saying that how is there not a lane for him when you're seeing that DJ LeMahieu is struggling? You're seeing that Josh Donaldson is a dumpster lit on fire.
Paying them a lot of money.
And then that's his fault.
Yeah.
Like, it's all his fault.
Were you expecting to get this riled up about the Yankees on November 9th?
Yeah.
I was not expecting this press conference. Like, this press conference made my blood boil.
You should transition your emotions to the Knicks for the next couple months.
Also, Chris Getz actually said nobody is untouchable, by the way. So
okay.
Well,
that's a Soto type return. Yeah.
Only a couple teams that can do that.
And then Brian Cashman said, I think we're pretty fucking good after finishing 82 and 80 and finishing with the second least amount of hits in Major League Baseball to the Oakland Athletics. Aaron Boone said he wants to bunt more, and Aaron Judge said that he should start focusing on stats like RBI and batting average. I'm done. I am so upset.
Let's do awards.
Awards. Yeah.
Awards. Quick break first. Awards. We are working off of the 3 finalists announced for each of them in both leagues that Major League Baseball put out earlier this week. We're going to start with Rookie of the Year, then go to Manager of the Year, then Cy Young, then MVP, American League, then National League. Things are going to go quick here because, unfortunately, we really don't have much of a dialogue on many of these at all. I think Manager of the Year is where we get the dialogue. But AL Rookie of the Year, amped for Tanner Bybee to be on this, one of 3 finalists. He deserved to be one of 3 finalists. He joins Tristan Casas of the Red Sox and Gunnar Henderson of the Orioles. Love Tanner. Tanner was the best rookie pitcher in baseball this year in the American League, but Gunnar Henderson was next level good. So Gunnar Henderson is the consensus pick.
Yeah.
Which is why we had that rookie pitchers award conversation with Walker. And, we can give our own there. Like he's the American League rookie pitcher of the year.
Yeah.
But Gunnar on the other side, I mean, that guy's going to compete for MVPs. So
yeah,
congrats to him too.
Congrats to him. Anything to add?
No. Yeah, I wish we could argue more, but like Gunnar was just the best rookie, and
by a lot.
But was it by a lot? Because Tanner Bybee was excellent, but like he did win. But not by a lot.
In terms of WAR, it's always hard for me with pitcher WAR.
I think being an everyday infielder, the best team in the American League.
Yeah, he won.
Almost a 5-win season.
It's not by a lot. That's all I gotta say. Not by a lot. He won though.
I'd say by like a standard deviation.
Standard deviation winner. I like that.
Is he unanimous?
Yeah,
probably.
I think so too.
He's unanimous.
And then I think Bybee should finish second and Casas third.
Unanimous. Bybee second.
I better see Bybee second. And Casas had a phenomenal second half, and I love Tristan Casas, but like first baseman too.
Okay, this is where we can have the conversation. Who finishes second? And I think it's Bybee.
Yeah, it's like also not an argument. Bybee then second, Casas third, and Casas was great. Bybee was better, and Gunnar was the best.
Fourth. I bet Yoshida fourth.
Yeah, makes sense.
We'll see. National League Rookie of the Year. Your three finalists: Corbin Carroll of the Arizona Diamondbacks, who was a 6-win player; James Outman of the Dodgers; and Kodai Senga of the Mets. Shout out to Kodai Senga for being the best rookie pitcher in baseball. Like Senga was better than Bybee this year. Senga was an all-star. Senga was awesome this year.
A little biased.
Shout out James Outman. Shout out James Outman for being an absolute beast this year and for putting enough hot stretches together to mitigate the cold stretches and be way more hot than cold. But nobody holds a candle to Corbin Carroll. This is an easy, unanimous rookie of the year. I think Senga should finish second and Outman third.
Exactly. Like it's unanimous Carroll 1, unanimous Senga 2, unanimous Outman 3.
Yeah, I mean, Senga in the second half was one of the best pitchers in baseball, period.
Unbelievable.
Started to get used to the baseball, I think, and get a little bit comfortable, and the command got better. And I mean, if he started that run a little bit earlier, he could have been in the Cy Young conversation, which is wild. And there's a world where he could have won the Cy Young and lost the Rookie of the Year, which is absolutely insane if you think about it. Because I think if he pitched a little bit better, let's say he has a 2.24, 2.5, and I mean the NL kind of was a limp to the finish line.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that. I think there was a very real scenario where Kodai Senga could have won the Cy Young and lost the Rookie of the Year, which would have been one of the weirder baseball things in a while that I actually would have agreed with as well. So that's pretty crazy.
It was 200 punch outs for Senga. This is why I can't really get behind pitcher WAR as much as some others. Kodai Senga had a 3.4 win season. Outman was 4.4. So if you want to go off WAR alone, hey, James Outman, second in Rookie of the Year. Like, no, I think Senga was a better rookie than James Outman was. Although, shout out to James Outman for putting up a 4.5 win season.
Seriously.
He's going to be just an accumulator because he's going to be the MVP of Major League Baseball for a month and then arguably one of baseball's worst players. And then the next month he's the MVP again. Then he's one of the worst. He's just so up and down. And that's what happens in a rookie season for some guys. But it felt like Outman was more on both sides of the spectrum, more than most rookies, where there were times at the plate where I thought to myself, oh, it's Mookie, Freddie, then Outman. Like he's that good. And then there's times where Outman should not be in the lineup at all.
But the constant was the glove. He's a very good defensive outfielder.
Yeah.
So
smooth out there.
Fun with numbers real quick. Second half rookies. This is actually nuts. By ERA. Cole Reagans, 2.64. Tanner Bybee, 2.63. Grayson Rodriguez, 2.58. And this is all with 12 to 14 starts. Kodai Senga, 2.58. And then these guys aren't rookies or young or anything, but Garrett Cole, 2.35, Bradish, 2.34, and Blake Snell, 1.54.
Oh, yeah. Still walking 5 per 9, but I rest my case. Manager of the year in the American League. The three finalists are Bruce Bochy of the Rangers, Kevin Cash of the Rays, and Brandon Hyde of the Baltimore Orioles. The votes were in after the regular season. It does not account for postseason. If it accounted for postseason, Bruce Bochy is the unanimous American League Manager of the Year, but it doesn't. Brian Snitker won the World Series in 2021. He was not a finalist for NL Manager of the Year. My vote is Brandon Hyde with the Orioles. That turnaround and the fact that he was there for the shit 2 years ago and has guided them to unprecedented levels in a 2-year span, I think it has to be Hyde.
I think it should be unanimous for Brandon Hyde. I mean, Kevin Cash, a lot of wrenches thrown in that equation, right?
Yeah.
Juan Franco gone, tons of injuries to that team, still won 99 games, but they were projected as one of the favorites to win the division, or at least they had an outside shot of it. Like, they continually go to the playoffs, and that's the front office. That is Kevin Cash. Like, Kevin Cash is one of the best managers in Major League Baseball. But Brandon Hyde and his Orioles team that wasn't expected to win the division, a lot of people, including my dumbass, thought they'd finish last, won 101 games. Has to be Brandon Hyde. Has to be.
Yeah. I think the way he handled the bullpen and handled the pitching staff in general, and also handled a crowded and bizarre infield situation, right? When you pull the plug on Mateo, who was the best player in Major League Baseball through the first few weeks, then to go to a youngster. Also, how much leeway do you give a struggling youngster in Gunnar Henderson, who, it was ugly when Mateo was balling, but just the feel that he had around the entire infield and around the entire situation, Mountcastle being available, not available, young guys coming up, like how much leeway do you give a Cowser versus a Kerstad? Like, he had to juggle a lot of different things. And I thought Hyde did an unbelievably incredible job throughout the regular season. So yeah, it's a no-brainer for Hyde, but Bochy, I think the ebbs and flows of the season was impressive. And then you mentioned all the extracurriculars that, Kevin Cash had to deal with. I thought all of them had intriguing responses in a positive way to adversity, which I think makes them all really strong candidates, but you got to go Hyde.
Big time.
Yep.
National League Manager of the Year. 3 finalists are Craig Counsell of the Brewers, Skip Schumacher of the Marlins, Brian Snitker of the Braves. I love Snit. I think I could have managed this team to 110 wins. Counsell got your bag.
Credit. Give a little more credit to that. You could have coached them to 110 games.
Snit's got, I mean, dude.
Arm's like, I think we could have. You know what? Let's spin the narrative back on its head. Yes, we could have. Yeah, I'm down. We could have gotten them to 120.
Like,
the three of us.
How much did Snit have to do with Acuna going 40-70? let's be pretty honest here.
Letting him steal?
Sure, man.
Yeah.
Sure.
Good move.
They were the 27 Yankees. I mean, I did on offense, at least.
You know who it's got to be. Skip.
I agree. I was going to vote Skip as well.
Skip's got my vote.
He
the team sucks.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not a good baseball team.
Yeah, I'll let you go. Yeah,
they were in the postseason.
They made the playoffs.
Stunk. Sandy stunk, and they were a postseason team.
Sandy stunk and was unavailable. I wrote the Marlins offseason outlook, and it was like this moment of, how the hell did this team make the playoffs? I'm writing about how they need a shortstop, they need a catcher, they need also a corner outfielder, and they need a pitcher. And I was like, what in the world? They need Jazz Chisholm to stay healthy, which is out of their control. But I was looking at it from that lens. I'm like, wow. And I do think a lot of it, you talk about the one-run games, all the one-run games that they've won. What's the biggest difference? Not that much personnel in terms of players. The biggest difference from them being one of the worst one-run teams last year or 2 years ago to the best one-run team this year or last year is pretty much the manager and use of the bullpen. Tanner Scott, I mean, like the way he used him, Andrew Nardi, the way he used him. I know he had a good feel for the bullpen, pulling the plug on Robertson quickly enough, but still using him in spots because they needed him, but they couldn't let him kill them. I thought that the feel for the bullpen by Skip was unreal. People want to micromanage and judge things. It's easy to do that. And then honestly, the way that he maneuvered the lineup, at times, sometimes I was scratching my head, but they made the playoffs with that lineup. And that's all that matters to me.
Dude, another name is AJ Puck, man. Like AJ Puck was the best closer in the game for the first 3 months of the season. And then all of a sudden, it's done. The lights go out and Skip makes a move. So yeah, his ability to kind of massage the 8th and 9th inning and get them as many 1-run wins as they got.
And they had a lot of bullpen starts too. Like Brian Hoeing opened up more games than he should have.
I want to just talk quickly about that AJ Puck move because that takes a lot of balls, right? Like you trade JJ Bleday, your first round pick, for AJ Puck. He starts lighting up a storm. He looks like a bullpen version of Randy Johnson. And everyone's thinking to themselves, what a trade, right? You know, Bleday's hitting 230 in Oakland, and AJ Puck looks like the best reliever in baseball. And then the wheels started falling off. And instead of just riding him, right? Because I can imagine the front office was telling Skip, hey, like we got to continue to give this guy a run. We just traded our first round pick for him. I don't know if that happened. Obviously, I'm just guessing. I would assume.
But there's definitely optics to that, no doubt.
And then he pulls him and it ends up working. And then he starts putting him in other spots and then it ends up working again. I thought he did the most with that roster, more than Counsell did, because all the reports are that Counsell sucks the most out of Milwaukee that he can in order to get wins. And I would agree, but Milwaukee objectively had a way better roster than the Marlins did. And in reality, I know playoffs don't count, but they had the same fate, right? First round exits, bang, you're done.
Yeah.
AL Cy Young, congrats to Garrett Cole.
Yep.
Garrett Cole of the Yankees, Sonny Gray of the Twins, Kevin Gausman of the Blue Jays were the 3 finalists. Cole crosses off one of the final 2 things left for him to do in baseball, and that is win a Cy Young Award. Garrett Cole has not won a Cy Young Award yet. He just got his 2nd ERA title. He's a 6-time All-Star. This guy, I mean, he finished, 4th in 2015, 5th in 18, 2nd in 19, 4th in 20, 2nd in 21, 9th in 22. He's been knocking on the door forever. And now he finally opens the door and is a Cy Young winner. The only thing left is a ring. He missed the Astros by a year. The Yankees will see how the future trends, but this guy is, he's among the best in baseball. Obviously, Trout and Ohtani are number 1 and 2 on this list, or maybe 1A, 1B on this list, but he is among the best players in baseball to not have a World Series ring. And Harper.
He might never get one. Unbelievable year, though. He was the MVP of the Yankees. Arguably the MVP of the American League, considering how bad the Yankees would have been if they didn't have Garrett Cole every 5th day.
So how crazy does that look now that I said Garrett Cole should be a sleeper MVP candidate?
Not a bad pick.
Nailed it.
Not a bad pick. Yeah,
it's just Ohtani. Ohtani is just in the American League. So like he could, even if he had like a 1.00 ERA through 400 innings, like it's just Ohtani hits and pitches and is fast. Did you know that?
When he becomes a Giant at halftime of the Frankfurt game between the Colts and the Pats on Sunday, where the MVP is Coles next year in the American League.
No, it's J-Rod's.
It's amazing the way he's able to just continue to eat up innings though, and 263 and 33 starts. He's an innings eater. He dominates. There's few pitchers I'm starting my franchise with other than Garrett Cole. So yeah, that was a no-brainer.
Shout out Sonny Gray and Kevin Gausman, though. Phenomenal.
That is true. Yeah, both
phenomenal years. Like
very good years.
Cole was just unconscious, but Sonny Gray and Kevin Gausman, they could have won the Cy Young in different years. They were so good.
Who finishes second? My vote is for Sonny.
My vote is also for Sonny, but it's close.
I think if you're sub 3, 279 compared to a 316 with Gausman. Yeah, we know the FIP.
Yeah,
we know the FIP. And the K's help too, but I'm gonna go Gray.
It ain't a FIP award. These awards are production awards. Like we're going old school a little bit, so it's really got to be.
I don't know, man. Corbin Burns made it a FIP award.
Yeah.
Well, that was
big
also
thing for
a
me
weird
though.
Year.
8 homers allowed for Sonny Gray, 19 allowed for Kevin Gausman, but the FIP still loves him obviously because of the walks. But fortunately, we can't have record be much of an impact here. Sonny Gray was 8-8 and Kevin Gausman was 12-9. So hopefully writers don't even look at that.
Actually, yeah, give it to Gausman. He's winning games.
Winning games.
4 more. NL Cy Young, the 3 finalists, Blake Snell of the Padres, Zach Gallen of the Diamondbacks, and Logan Webb of the Giants. Where's Justin Steele?
Crazy.
Insane that he is not on here. But I don't want to disrespect Gallen or Webb. But Steele should finish second. I mean, what are we doing here?
So I think the way it's going to roll out is Snell wins, clearly.
Yep.
I bet they go Gallen 2, Webb 3, Steele 4.
Yeah.
I thought Steele had a better year, relatively speaking, than Gallen. I
agree.
Thought it should be Snell 1, Steele 2, Gallen 3, Webb 4.
I think you could argue Webb 3 over Gallen 4, but I think Steele should be 2. Arm, what do you think?
It's tough because the thing with here's my challenge, and then there's a lot of what ifs here, and then we just get into like the philosophy of like what we look at and pitcher. Cy Young's the hardest for me, but Steele obviously limped to the finish line pretty bad, and it was a innings high for him, and it was a phenomenal year. 173 innings versus Zach Gallen's 210, and yeah, Gallen had some ebbs and flows at the end, but continued to throw and threw a lot. If you gave 4 to 5 more starts to Justin Steele, where he ends up somewhere close to Zach Gallen's ERA, Zach Gallen's innings total. How close is the ERA going to be then to Gallen's 3.47?
Can you repeat the ERAs for both of them?
So Justin Steele had a 3.06, Zach Gallen had a 3.47. That's a big gap.
It's a big gap.
So is a
what
was it 47 or 37 inning gap between the two of them. So I'm just thinking the way Steele kind of finished, he makes 4 or 5 more starts, 6 more starts, which is what Gallen did. Does the ERA get higher? Like, are we punishing Gallen for being more available and making 4 more starts? That's where it's hard for me. Steele was my pick all the way through until the end there, where he really hit a wall. That's where I'm struggling to make my decision. But I'm gonna probably go Gallen too, just because again, 4 more starts. That again, we're going to punish Gallen for being more available. That's kind of hard for me.
And what about Webb?
Webb's awesome.
Yeah. Webb eclipsed 200 innings. This is just what he's going to do every year. I think he should finish 3rd or 4th every year.
Honestly, Webb might be 2.
I think Webb is above Gallen. He had a 3.25 ERA and 216 innings.
Yeah, I'd go Blake Snell.
Lower ERA than Gallen. I think it should be. Shit.
2 complete games too. I think I would go Blake Snell, Logan Webb, Zach Gallen, and then Justin Steele. I think they actually got it right.
You think that you would go Gallen over Steele? I still think the 0.4 gap is, even if you gave him like 4 more starts, 5 more starts, whatever it is.
0.4 is a lot.
0.4 is a lot. And it's not like Gallen was great at the end of the year either.
That's what I'm saying, though. But he made 4 more starts.
Yeah.
And now that like works against him, it
tough. Shouldn't work against him. It shouldn't.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Snell won.
Yeah, Snell won, and like I can't believe it. I kept waiting for the shoe to drop, but no, we're gonna have. I gotta say, it's got to be the first Cy Young winner with 99 walks, right?
It's arguably, dude.
Like he led the National League in walks.
It's arguably the most impressive Cy Young award ever. Walking that many guys and still dominating like that.
It's the narrative up there.
Let's spin the narrative however we want.
It kills me. It honestly hurts my soul that this guy can walk that many guys and win the Cy Young Award.
And am I a bad person that the more it hurts your soul, the more I want to spin it the other way just to argue?
No, you're it's not pretty a bad funny person.
Him and Johan Oviedo. Johan Oviedo had 83 walks. Charlie Morton had 83 walks. Blake Snell had 99. If we're looking at the National League side of things. So
that's insane. That's 16 more walks this year than anybody else.
16 more than Johan Oviedo.
No, but think about it. That's how dominant he was.
I know.
100 walks, and he's still rocking an ERA in the mid-2s.
It hurts.
It's
by the way, 115 hits. Next least was Kodai Senga with 126. Who threw
innings.
14 less innings.
Jeez.
Man. He's kind of the anti-whip merchant. By the way, Peter, speaking of us kind of going against each other, how'd you feel about Brett Rippon starting Green Bay on Sunday? Do you like that for the Rams?
I do like that we were being tagged in a bunch of stuff, that the bets that you gentlemen have made with zero upside on here is just some of the dumbest shit ever. But yeah, it was Brent Rippon, is not Stetson Bennett. We are still waiting on that bet because Jack McMullen said you could punch me in the face if Stetson Bennett ever throws a pass to the NFL. And I said, well, do I have to give up anything? You're like, no. And I'm like, okay.
Well, he's
I'll
like
take
away
it.
from the team. No, isn't he like away from the team?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think he ever will throw
They
a
never
pass,
said what
but-
it was.
But would you risk getting punched in the face if he magically throws one pass?
Dude, I
Tommy
said on
DeVito is in right now for the Giants. This is not a football podcast.
I would have put my
Orange.
life on
Shout out Syracuse.
I would have put my life on under 1/2 pass there
Yeah.
with the Giants. But no, I mean, I said the same thing with Tristan Casas. I said if he wasn't a good hitter in the major league level, you could punch me in the face on the call up like a couple of years ago. And I got a little nervous in the first half. I was like waiting for just some random Red Sox fan to just clock me and say, that's what you get for getting my hopes up. But we made it out.
No, I'm on the other side. I'll take all of these bets with no downside for me. A fist.
Understood. AL MVP, it's Shohei Ohtani. Second will be Corey Seager. Third will be Marcus Semien. And that's the end of the conversation.
End of podcast. I mean, but 75 extra base hits for Corey Seager at 119 games blows my mind. Amazing year. World Series MVP. Unfortunately, he doesn't pitch.
Can you do your best spin zone into a Seager MVP vote?
Yes, please.
If you go by value per game,
Yep.
Corey Seager would actually have the edge.
Hell yes.
So that's my angle there. Also, if you go by most impressive individual swing, I would go with Corey Seager's, though Ohtani obviously get some good snaps off. But Corey Seager, best individual swing. I mean, what a year. 119 games, what he was able to do. I mean, it worked out for him. He got a World Series and a World Series MVP. But I think if he played a full 150 to 162, or something similar to what we saw from Semien, I think we're having a conversation here because Ohtani hurt, team sucks. He plays 135, obviously was unbelievable across the board. But I think Seager, with another 40 games under his belt, could have, hit 45 home runs, could have had it 8 or 9 WAR. And then at that point, what are we talking about? We're having a full-blown conversation here. So I'm almost glad that we're not having that stressful ass conversation, because the Ohtani Vladdy discourse that one year, that wore me down. But again, testament to Semien too. Like, holy crap.
So I'm going to spin zone Semien, but I want to answer that point that you said. Let's say you finish with an 8.5 win season for Seager, hit 345 bombs, probably still doesn't win.
We're having the conversation.
We are having
probably doesn't win, but we are having the conversation.
It's definitely one where it's like, it's not the Ohtani award, right? Like, you're talking about it and saying like, what else could Corey Seager reasonably do? But like, I think that's the best thing a player can do, is even just make you have the conversation, which is you have to be so fucking insane as a position player to,
you have to be historic,
to make the conversation happen.
Historic.
So kind of going back a year, if Judge hit 56 home runs instead of 62, I think we're having a conversation.
I agree. I don't think he wins it.
Yeah, I don't think he wins it.
Yeah.
No.
Let me spin zone Marcus Semien. Let me figure this out. So
played 162 games. That's way more than any of the
No
other
one else played more than that.
Who would you rather have? A guy who's on the field or a guy who's not on the field? I personally would rather have the player who's playing baseball. Ohtani and Seager dealing with injuries, probably on the golf course, not trying. Marcus Semien is bringing his lunch to the field every day and providing a ton of value. Who's a better defender, Seager or Semien? Maybe Seager, but Semien's really good. Semien's a way better defender than Ohtani.
DH.
Yeah.
DH, right? Get in the field.
Okay.
Like for the rest of us. And yes, I'm including me for some reason.
NIL valuation. If we were to place an NIL valuation on Shohei Ohtani and Marcus Semien, is Ohtani 40x or 50x Semien's value?
I think 1,000x.
So rude. It's like 30x.
But great year from Semien.
Great year.
We'll say though, 276, 348, 478 slash line shouldn't be an MVP finalist.
That's a lunch pail slash line.
Yeah,
let's go to the ballpark every day. Yeah,
little hard hat Rangers slash line.
He's probably dealing with like 9 different injuries, but he's still going out there. So what are we going to ding him for playing more? Right?
Yeah, I agree. Use my argument against me. I love it. No, I would say the interesting thing about this is if Ohtani leaves the American League. Just look, the fact that Marcus Semien is a finalist, great year. Again, I'm not taking that away. Really, really good year. The MVP is going to be wide open next year.
J-Rod.
Be wide open. Seager should be probably the favorite, assuming that no one big shifts either way except for Ohtani leaving. It's going to be Seager, Judge, and then who?
J-Rod.
It'll be
Rodriguez.
J-Rod.
Yeah.
He's going to win.
J-Rod.
I'm very confident in it.
And who else should be in that conversation? Do you think Yandy Diaz finishes fourth?
I think he does. I think he deserves it. Dude, he was unbelievably great this year.
I mean, a
He hit
164 WRC plus.
Unbelievable year.
I wouldn't have hated if Yandy was the third finalist instead of Semien, but I totally understand the Semien appeal there.
Lunch pail guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just go with the blue collar,
Yeah.
grit and grind fella.
Yeah. What did Yandy Diaz win a World Series this year?
No.
No.
Did he play in the DS this year? No.
No. Loser.
NL MVP. Congratulations to Ronald Acuna Jr. The question is second place, and the other two finalists are Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. Who had the better year between Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts?
Mookie.
Mookie.
Yeah.
He had 39 homers. Freddie had 29, but Freddie was what? Freddie was a 7.9 win player. Mookie was 8.3, 8.2.
8.3.
Freddie almost had 60 doubles. That hasn't been done since Joe Medwick in 1936.
What the hell is that?
Which isn't even real.
Yeah.
Joe Medwick was the last National League Triple Crown winner. I remembered the name Medwick because we were talking about Paul Goldschmidt being that guy until like the last 2 weeks of the season last year.
Mm-hmm.
But Medwick was the last Triple Crown winner in the National League. Or Cardinal, because actually, no, National League.
So let's try and spin zone Mookie. Can Acuna play shortstop? No.
Probably.
Can he play?
Can't play right.
Yeah, he can't play right.
No.
You hate defense? Defense.
I'd
That's all I got.
Yeah, you can't. You just can't knock 41 and 73. What the hell is that? With a 3?
Yeah.
And by the way, hit 340.
Jack read the stats on I think it was a show ago or 2 shows ago, whatever, and just went through the slash line, and just hearing it, it's better than watching it happen in real time. It's just hearing the slash line is amazing.
It's absurd. But for second place, I think Freeman was awesome, and I place a lot of value on. And I know that Mookie didn't do a ton with the glove this year relative to what we're used to, like, which is usually the best defensive right fielder or one of in the game. But I also think moving around was part of it for him. Like, he had to play second, he had to play short, he had to play right. I just think the very fact that he could do those serviceably and fill in for a team that desperately needed that, I think makes him valuable. So you can dissect the numbers and things like that. But to me, I think the numbers very comparable. And honestly, first base power position, and Mookie outslugged him. So I know that he did a lot of good things, Freeman, but I think for me, it's a slam dunk for Mookie number 2. Freeman will probably be the best third place MVP since like the steroid era, though.
If the MLB,
by the way, fun thing to pass the time, go through the steroid era, early 2000s, late 90s, and go look at some of the stat lines of guys who finished 15th in MVP voting. There's like a Luis Gonzalez season where he had like 50 home runs and he finished like 18th in MVP voting. Like Major League Baseball was just so cracked at that point that you could see some crazy numbers. I used to do that all the time to pass the time. Just the funniest, most insane stat lines I could find, not in the top 10 of an MVP. And there's some crazy ones out there.
If Major League Baseball was like the NFL and you had to choose an MVP, Rookie of the Year, Cy Young, Manager of the Year for the entire league without divisions, what would you guys go with? I would go the entire league. I'll give you my answer.
Just basically Acuna versus Ohtani.
Yes. I would go Shohei Ohtani, the MVP of the league. I would go Garrett Cole as the Cy Young of the league. For Rookie of the Year, I would go Corbin Carroll. And for Manager of the Year, I would go Brandon Hyde. Any disagreements?
None for me.
No, I'm with you. Also, fun one, 99. Mark McGwire hit 65 home runs and drove in 147 and finished 5th in MVP voting. Sammy Sosa hit 63 and finished 9th in MVP voting.
Who finished 8th?
8th? Edgardo Alfonso.
Nice.
What did he do?
Sick pull.
304, 385, 502 with 27 homers. I don't know how he finished ahead of Sammy Sosa.
Todd Helton.
Larry
2000
Walker.
Yeah.
Slash 379, 458, 710 and finished 10th.
Of course.
He had a 710 slugging.
So I was going to mention
still.
Todd Helton finished 19th in 2002. Had an OPS over 1,000, hit 330 with 30 and 110.
I'm telling you,
19th.
I could do this shit all day. It's crazy looking at some of the guys that didn't win way back. It's actually obscene, some of the stat lines that these guys put up that have no hardware for it.
I think it's time for some niche awards.
Niche awards.
So I compiled a list. They're not real awards, but they're my awards. They're the Just Baseball niche awards. Number 1, the Hole in the Bat Award, given to the player with the most strikeouts. That's Kyle Schwarber, who struck out 215 times. But if we're looking at strikeout rate, Brent Rooker led Major League Baseball with a 32.7% rate. This is very similar to the other awards, where these are who led in these stats with a funny name. Any disagreements on the answer to the question?
We can't. It's actually impossible to disagree with these awards.
It is.
They're statistically based.
Here is the Stone Hands Award, given to the worst defender in Major League Baseball. And now defense is a spectrum, right? There's a lot of different defensive stats to evaluate how good a defender is. So I pulled the worst in defensive runs saved, the worst in outs above average, and the worst in defensive WAR. Your worst defender in terms of defensive runs saved, Elias Diaz of the Colorado Rockies finished with negative 16. Kyle Schwarber's again on this list for worst defender in terms of outs above average. That's a range stat. That kind of makes sense. Negative 19 outs above average. And in terms of defensive WAR, you pull them all together, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., negative 17.2 defensive WAR. He finished with 1.0 FWAR this year. Thanks a lot, Vladdy. I'm about to destroy you in the offseason for costing me all this money, but it won't be biased at all. The BESR Award, given to the players with the highest exit velo. Remember those insane bats? My personal favorite, Red CF3. That's where I got my first home run with.
The Easton Stealth went crazy.
I have a soft spot for the Red CF3. That was my first home run when I was 10, straight away center field, probably a good 220.
Good on you.
Good on me.
It's crazy. You've never topped it since.
Yeah, literally. Ronald Acuna Jr., 121.2 miles an hour off Emmett Sheehan. We all remember that piss missile.
Yeah.
Yes.
That went 440 feet at like a launch angle, 2. But highest average exit velo, Aaron Judge, 97.4. Second, two-way tie between Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ohtani at 94.7. So Aaron Judge led by a sizable margin there.
So the BESR bat that I remember was that red EXO. You remember that one? EXO with like the yellow flames surrounding the word EXO on the barrel.
Underrated one. Do you guys remember the Blue Bomber?
No.
Blue Bomber, you guys don't remember that one?
Blue Bomber.
No.
Yeah.
I remember the
Blue
two-piece DiMarini ones. You remember the two-piece?
Yeah, those things always broke. Was it Blue Bomber like the combat?
Yeah. That thing.
Oh, those were nice.
Yeah. Love the Blue Bomber. All right. Next award. Or we want to talk more about bats? I'm down to talk.
No, the cherry bomb, the red cherry bomb. Those got like outlawed, I think.
Yeah.
Those were nasty.
I want to get killing kids.
I want to get a couple pro guys on like a hit tracks this offseason. Those BSR bats, by the way, are super expensive because when Griffin Conine and Mike Rothenberg, two of my buddies, played in the College World Series, or not the College World Series, the Home Run Derby in Omaha. They want you to use BSR bats, but they're not going to supply them for you. So they all had to they searched, couldn't find them. They bought them on eBay for like $300, $400. Like they're like almost the equivalent of like a GameCube now, where it's become rare. It's vintage. So I might try to stockpile some just so I can go to the park and feel something.
Yeah. Like in 100 years, someone's going to have a Honus Wagner card and like a red CF3 in a case.
Yeah, I'll have a cherry
They're both
bomb.
going to be the same price. All right. The Wet Noodle Award, the lowest average exit velo from a player. Asturi Ruiz of the Oakland A's swung a wet noodle this year. His average exit velo, 82.7 miles an hour off the bat, by far the lowest in Major League Baseball. Next award, the hand cannon award. Fastest throw from an outfielder, Brenton Doyle of the Colorado Rockies.
Animal.
Chucked one in at 105.7 miles an hour. Since StatCast started tracking this, at least on Baseball Savant, it only goes back to 2020. The fastest throw since it started getting tracked. Brenton Doyle, shout out Brenton Doyle. The Big Balls Award, given to the clutchest player in Major League Baseball. It's a two-way tie. And so what it is, it's hard to actually evaluate who is the clutchest, but we can use the clutch stat on Fangraphs. And what it basically does, in high leverage situations, did you exceed what your normal stats are? So there are some guys who aren't very good, but in high leverage situations were much better. And that's what makes this guy being at the top so amazing. Bryce Harper wins the award. Two-way tie with Ezekiel Tovar of the Colorado Rockies. So we know how good Bryce Harper is regularly, but in the big moments, there was nobody clutcher in 2023 than Bryce Harper, but shout out Ezekiel Tovar. Not sure how he was up there.
I think you absolutely snubbed Tanner Scott here. Absolute king.
Well, what are you going to do?
Win probability added 4.9.
Damn.
Pretty good. Also, from the pitching perspective, the two leaders in clutch. I don't know how like a starting pitcher can be.
That's the thing. I didn't include pitchers because I don't know how you measure clutch for pitchers.
Julio Urias leads in clutch. And
no, he doesn't.
Braxton Garrett. Yeah, so Braxton Garrett, the winner of starting pitcher clutch.
Yeah, Julio Urias definitely does not lead in anything.
No.
The No Balls Award, given to the least clutch player in Major League Baseball this year. This answer shocked me. The 2022 World Series MVP, Jeremy Pena, finished with the lowest clutch score on Fangraphs among all hitters this year.
That feels super unfair. But high leverage situations, the entire regular season just didn't show up. That's baseball for you, right? The guy who wins the World Series MVP the next year becomes baseball's least clutch player. God, I think like if you don't play that well, which he didn't hit that well this year, right? And you're on a team that plays in a lot of like close games and stuff, like he just got screwed. He probably just unfortunately like found himself in a lot of high leverage situations and it just wasn't that good this year. So that sucks. Cause like from the name of the award, like I do think Jeremy Pena has some stones, but unfortunately from a clutch perspective, just didn't have it this year. This award is courtesy of Peyton, who runs Big League Analysis, the newest TikTok added to our network, and is a phenomenal editor. Shout out Peyton. He made a video about Ty France. So as an ode to Peyton and an ode to Ty France, we have a new award, the Ty France Award. What does that mean? He was the first player in MLB history to get hit by 25 pitchers or more and ground into 25 double plays in the same season. That's crazy. He had 34 hit by pitches and grounded into 25 double plays. The weirdest year ever. So did you see that viral video of those guys that like were standing in pitching machines, like in a cage and just getting hit by fastballs, like, and they cranked it up. It was like 75, then 80, then 85, then 90. And they just kept getting drilled. I think you're talking about Happy Gilmore. That's what you're talking about. So yeah, no, but there was literally a viral video. Do you not see that video on Twitter? No, I didn't. I saw it. Yeah. So was it Eric Sim? No, it was just a bunch of random kids, like high school kids or college kids that just being guys and just being dumb and wearing them and just cranking it all the way up to 90 and wearing it. But the funniest thing was somebody quote tweeted it and said, Ty France at Driveline this offseason. And I thought that was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Wearing pitches. The last award, I just want to have a discussion. The Made of Glass Award. Oh. I'm giving it to Mike Trout and Jacob deGrom. It's not a real award. It's more just a discussion because I'm very excited. In the offseason, we always do our rankings, right? Top 10 first basemen, shortstops. We rank everybody under the sun. And I'm having a discussion with some of my buddies. Jacob deGrom is still the best pitcher in baseball, but he's not the best pitcher in baseball.
Does that make sense? He is
He's the most talented, but he's not
the
available.
most talented. That's I think what you meant.
And then what do you say? Do you rank him 8th? I mean, what is that ranking?
So
like,
next year's easy because you don't have to rank him. Like going into 24, it's hey, he's out for the year because he's recovering from Tommy John. So you can kind of let this sit for a year.
I think you got to rank him based on like what you think his output's going to be for that coming season. So you try to bake injury into that. I don't like projecting injury. We usually say we want to avoid that, but like there's certain players where you can't ignore it and you know that they're going to try to manage him. So like, yeah, I think you got to kind of bake it in that way. But yeah, it's unfortunately got to be the two most talented players in the game, basically not named Ohtani, are the guys that are the most unfortunately fragile at this stage is quite unfortunate.
And Mike Trout hit around 260 this year with 18 home runs. And I was speaking with my buddies and I was like, Mike Trout had 40 home runs this year, I think. No, he didn't. I was so wrong.
No.
What do we do with him?
Oh, that's to be determined. That's going to be a fun one because he'll be on the field. That'll be a fun one. Is that it? Is that the awards?
Those are the awards. Those are the niche awards.
I've won analytical nerd award. Highest induced vertical break fastball this year.
Ooh.
Minimum of 100. Felix Bautista.
I could have guessed that one.
Averaged 20.4 inches of induced vertical break on his fastball. That is obscene. Absolutely obscene. And also at that velocity is just absolutely absurd. So just wanted to shout out Felix Bautista. Unfortunately, we won't have him for this coming season, but he's so much fun to watch. Also, lowest release point. I'm sure you can probably guess it. Tyler Rogers releases the ball 1.1 feet off the ground. Adam Simber releases the ball 2.1 feet off the ground. But the lowest that isn't a submariner, how about Ryan Thompson at 3.9 feet off the ground?
But Thompson's like a weird sidewinder type thing. I'm curious like who the overhead person is.
We're also getting...
I could tell you, do you consider Paul Sewald overhead?
No.
No. I think
Hobie Milner. Do you consider Hobie Milner?
Hobie's definitely not.
Do you consider Penn Murphy?
No.
Okay, then we're going to keep going down. Nick Sandlin?
No. I think we're done here.
Whatever.
All right, then the answer is Alexis Diaz.
Oh, yeah, Diaz. There we go. Diaz is the answer. Peter, to answer your question, I think it goes in terms of guys, like if you were starting your team from scratch for the 2024 season, I'm taking Ohtani, I'm taking Acuna, I'm taking Mookie Betts.
I mean, you'd take Carroll over him.
I wouldn't.
I would.
I wouldn't yet.
I would take J-Rod over him.
J-Rod's a conversation.
I mean,
fascinating.
The defense with Trout. We'll discuss this on later shows.
Yeah.
But that'll do it for this episode of the Just Baseball Show. Hopefully everybody has an amazing weekend. Hopefully you enjoyed the niche awards, the regular awards, and me screaming about Brian Cashman and the New York Yankees. It stinks that I have two co-hosts that won't let me rant. I could have done that for an hour, but it's probably good for
we
the
didn't
listeners.
Let you rant?
What?
I thought that was
let you rant.
You guys didn't even let me talk at all.
We gave you a pretty long leash.
You guys don't let me ever talk about the Yankees. So then, we also mentioned the White Sox a little bit. And it's funny, Jack didn't really have any points on his own team, but it's okay. We move on. We'll be back next week. We're still unsure. We'll be at Walker Buehler's golf tournament for his foundation on Sunday and Monday. So it's unclear what our podcast schedule will be like next week, but we're going to be still hammering stuff out on justbaseball.com, on social media, and we'll still get you guys plenty of podcasts this offseason. I cannot wait to keep diving into offseason content. And in the meantime, go check out the Just Baseball merch store. Look at Arm. Look how sexy that man looks. And look how unsexy Jack looks with no Just Baseball merch on.
Thanks, Peter.
And I'm not wearing any either. So you can put me in the unsexy department. Be sexy. Get yourself some Just Baseball merch. And all of this is brought to you by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. For the three of us, that's Jack, Arm, and I am Peter. And with that, thank you, everybody.